Don't get stuck in a rut. You have to decide what you want to do. People can be in a miserable place, but it's familiar and they know the game. And so they're willing to stay in that uncomfortable place because it's familiar. If you have the ability to move and you want it, you will.
Michael, thank you so much for taking your time out of Asset to come and speak with us today at the Corticare podcast booth. How have you been? How's it going?
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
This is another great event. I love coming to these asset conferences. Not only are the topics great, but just interacting with the people, just being here. I hate to see that some of the younger people don't interact like this and don't exactly network like we used to.
Maybe later. Maybe later
yeah,
when they feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, it's just the brain trust. We were just talking about a little bit off camera here, just the brain trust that is here.
Yeah.
And the variety of people and their knowledge is just amazing. I just love
the energy, the like you said, the knowledge, what people know in this room about neurodiagnostics is unfathomable.
It really
incredible.
is. I think they told me around 700 participants this year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so people who take the time to come and invest in themselves really in something like this, it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it.
And I get to speak with people like you, and maybe this is the one time a year we see each other,
but it probably is, or every other year.
Yeah. But we connect, and you don't lose that familiarity, and it's just a lifelong friendships that you make.
That's true. You make some acquaintances here that are just lifelong friendships. I see people just walking through yesterday and just catching a glimpse of them across the room, like, hey, dude, I haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah.
So
and you don't have to even say much. You can just say,
yeah, exactly.
Good to see you.
Exactly.
Good to see you.
And that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm excited about this conversation. We're going to talk about leadership in the neurodiagnostics field. You've seen different angles of leadership in the neurodiagnostic field.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your story, how you got into neurodiagnostics. First of all, because to me, that's the most fascinating part, because we all have different stories. So
this will be a good one then.
Okay.
The 30,000 foot view is, I've been in healthcare, believe it or not. I can't. 30 years now.
Yeah.
This October will be 30 years for me. And I mean, I still can't wrap my mind around it sometimes because it just seems to have gone so quick. But when they start talking about some of the different developments here and the technology, even I started on a grass pen and ink machine. I had to punch in a montage with a stylus. I mean, and for some people, that's hard to think about. But but that was 30 years ago. That was my first year and a half in the field doing that. So I started out in sleep, and believe it or not, I was in between jobs, and my ex-father-in-law says, hey, what'd you think about coming to the sleep lab and checking things out? It's like, oh, yeah, I could do that. And so I went up there and I thought, I could do this for a little while.
Yeah.
Here I am 30 years
just
later.
A little while.
So
just a bit.
I did 17 years in sleep and then 13 years now in neurodiagnostics. And oddly enough, I'm back managing a sleep lab now. So that's kind of the 30,000 foot view. The little more granular is I started out in sleep, and those first few years, man, if you knew the word polysomnography, you got the job.
Yeah.
Like they were hurting for techs so much back then. I would work 4, 5, 6 nights a week. You know, money was good, labs everywhere. And so I did that for several years. And then about 2007, I took a little break and went to Mexico and did some missions work down there for about 4 years.
Cool. Yeah.
And so
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
really
that
cool.
was, that was kind of my dream. I've always wanted to do missions work and hope to try to be able to work some of that back in now, and particularly in the area of neurodiagnostics.
Yeah.
There's some opportunities there. Came back and I went back into sleep, but could kind of feel the winds of change occurring in sleep. And so I had the opportunity where I lived, south of Houston, the local community college had a neurodiagnostics program. So I went and signed up in the summer of 2011 and started that, graduated in 2013 from that program. Went to work at Texas Children's. There I had a lot of really good opportunities. Worked in the epilepsy monitoring unit, worked in the neuro ICU monitoring unit when they opened that, and also had the opportunity to train in the interoperative monitoring.
Wow.
So within the same organization, same great hospital, I had the opportunity to move and grow and have some other various opportunities.
Was that your
within
aha moment where you were like, there's so much more to neurodiagnostics than just sleep or...
I think that came during the neurodiagnostics program itself.
Oh, wow.
When we started studying more on interoperative monitoring, when we started studying on nerve conduction study, and so I was seeing some of these other opportunities that I really didn't even know about. I barely knew about EEG, and I kind of chose neurodiagnostics. Because a lot of sleep techs are kind of respiratory therapists or EEG neurotechs. Well, I can't do suction. So I went with the more of the neuro side because I didn't want to lose the experience that I already had in sleep. And a lot of places will put that umbrella there and they'll have under the same department, you know, that element, which Texas Children's did. So I get to step into an organization at that time with 15 years of experience. I didn't lose what I had already acquired and built up. In some respects, I felt like I had a little bit of an advantage on some of the new students, but it wasn't long before they caught up. And I think that was a little surprising to me, how quickly people just catch on. And when they have that passion for it, you know, really learn and dig in.
Yeah.
I had the advantage in things like filters and marking and measuring because I was used to that. But then going from a 30-second EEG screen to a 10-second EEG screen, that was a total game changer for me. And I had to relearn EEG, and I'm still not as sharp on EEG as I was on sleep, which is it's kind of like in my brain sometimes.
It's like your first language versus your second.
I see movement and I'm like, oh, sweat artifact, instead of going, oh, that's a white matter issue. So some slowing there.
Yeah.
But but there's some change there.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, I had the opportunity to move around some. I've since delved into some other areas. This past year, I worked in the MEG lab at Memorial Hermann.
Tell me more about MEG.
Man, you know, if you like watching paint dry,
yeah, is that exciting?
It's not that exciting. I'm being facetious there. It is really neat. It takes a real intricate knowledge. You can't.
What is it?
Well, so MEG is when we record EEG, we record from the scalp. But when you do the MEG, you go off of the magnetic electrical signals coming from within the brain. And so instead of just a surface recording, you get to pinpoint where down in the brain the signal is coming from. So it really helps in combination when you look at the overall surgery planning. It's another great tool to help the physicians and the surgeons localize where that signal source is coming from. And so instead of just having that surface level EEG recording, now they got some depth to it. So maybe they want to go put an SEEG in so they can go some different angles and kind of put those SEEG electrodes down into the area. And so with that triangulation from MEG, it really helps dig down and give them even better
really localize where it's going.
Yes, down to millimeters.
Yeah.
You know,
these testings that we do are just they're fascinating. And it's not just routine EEG.
True.
So how can a tech go from entering in the field, let's say they entered into an EEG department, they're starting out with routine EEGs, which is where you start out with. How do you go from a routine EEG, doing those all day, every day, to you're in neurosurgery, you're doing the MEGs, you're doing the long-term EEG, and then remote monitoring?
Well, I think it's a couple different things. First has to be the want to. I've seen some techs, like I'm in management. You can't get some techs to touch management with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
Like they don't want to do it. I have other techs that I've known that are in the EMU, and they're happy coming in and doing their days and going home.
Yeah.
And
They like
and
that
and that's
structure. That
and
they like
it's
the practice.
great.
Yeah.
You know, we need people like that. But then you have some people who don't want to do that, that want to advance, that want to go to a different area. So most of the time, it comes down to want to, I think. You know, if you want to go somewhere, you can. I come back to that over and over again. I wanted to learn more, and I would do things like come in on my days off to surgery conference. You know, get up at 5:30 in the morning, drive an hour into the hospital to be in surgery conference for an hour on my day off, because the want to was there.
Yeah.
I wanted to be more involved. I wanted to understand what I was doing and how I fit in that picture even better, which is what those kinds of things do. If you're going to surgery conference that's made up of the neurosurgeons and the epileptologists and the nursing staff and the radiologist and interoperative monitor, you get the whole picture of what's going on. So you understand, I didn't test that patient when they started having that seizure. How does that affect the doctor's perspective and what he's trying to do? And I think it's these electrodes, and those electrodes weren't taken care of, and they had a lot of artifact to them. But that doesn't help, because he's trying to work with this radiologist to see about a lesion in that area underneath where that electrode is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it gives you an understanding, and it gives you a picture of how you're significant in the process.
Yeah.
The speaker this morning was talking about how we're a team. If you break down those silos, we just become a team that's working for the betterment of the patient, which is why we do what we do in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, so those kinds of things give you a better understanding. But for a new tech coming in, if they have, like, what do I like to do?
Yeah.
What are my strengths? Like, you don't want me being your accountant. I transpose numbers. I forget decimal points. Like,
sometimes you switch the
I
numbers.
do. It'll be 64 and I'll write 46.
Right. Same here.
Like, you know, so don't hire Mike for your accountant, you know, but at the same time, the science behind this, and as one reason I chose to go to Children's Hospital, you see so many different things there. And so the science behind it, that always keeps me energized, that always keeps me going, that always keeps me wanting to learn. And so if a new tech comes in and they are in one area, then they can start to learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think another one of the things that's kind of surprising when I say this is you just be patient with the process. There's a lot of people that are like just
over anxious to get.
I think it's just us, you know, in general. Like, we want everything today, or maybe yesterday would have been better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, I want it now anyhow.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
want
like,
it now anyhow.
We have credit cards to show that.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
yeah.
But that's the way we feel. But there has to be just a process. Figure out what you want to do and create a plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Create a plan. When I was in the EMU, and they started to talk about opening up the neuro ICU monitoring, I thought, oh, well, that's cool. And I watched the building being built, and then they started talking about doing that. And there wasn't very many people in the epilepsy monitoring unit that wanted to go, but I did.
You plug yourself into that
So
situation.
with that in mind, I started studying for my CLTM.
Yeah.
And so that was the next step. And so we moved over to the neuro ICU monitoring in March. I got my CLTM in May.
Yeah.
So there were some goals and some plans on what steps to do, how to get there. 1 year, 3 year, 5 year
Yeah.
plans.
Yeah.
And if you do that, I think you'll be a little more true to yourself. I mean, I remember one tech that was always like, I want my CLTM, I want my CLTM. And I helped them. I gave them study material. And 10 years later, they're still talking about acquiring it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to create a plan and then work your plan.
And what do you think hinders them, or why do you think they're hesitant to move forward?
Oh, well, that's a $64,000 question. It varies. I think some people never get past the wishing
Yeah.
phase of something. They never really sit down and create the plan. Okay, if I study an hour and a half a day for 6 months or a year, then I should have the knowledge base.
They spend all the time planning, studying, and not studying.
That happens too.
I felt victim of that before.
Sometimes people can feel overwhelmed. I know, not to throw off on my mom, but she's kind of a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's a frustrated perfectionist. And so her default is procrastination.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to throw off on my mom or
Right.
anything, but
Yeah.
I'm just talking about what I know.
Of course.
And so it's one of those things. And then there was a lot of times when she would start on a project and she would kind of see how it was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so she'd be about 3/4 finished and then just leave it.
Yep.
So there would be, she sewed, so there would be like dresses hanging in the closet with no elastic or no hem or stuff like that. I mean, just using examples that I know.
Yeah.
And there's various reasons that people don't. But, faith without works is dead. You have to take those steps of action. So it's create your plan. And then the next step is an action to that.
Yeah.
Don't concentrate on the elephant. Just take this bite right now.
Yeah.
You eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
So if you just eat that right now, that one bite,
Mm-hmm.
then you start getting there. But you never get there if you don't start. And you never get there if you don't have enough stick to it,
Right.
to do it.
And there's payoffs along the way. And you
absolutely.
had mentioned being a part of the team, and I want to touch on that a little bit, because what I found surprising when and it actually fed my desire to learn more, is when I would have conversations with neurologists. We used to do an EEG review, like once a week for lunch, where we would bring up the EEG, and the doctors and the technologists would sit around and they would talk about the EEG. And I remember my first time contributing to an EEG, and it made neurologists kind of, oh yeah, that's a possibility. And they explored what I had added to that. It made a spark in me.
Oh yeah, that's a big pump.
Yeah. So
That's
tell me the difference between someone who is sitting there and they don't know anything about EEG versus that feeling you get whenever you add value to that neurologist and to the group in itself.
There are certain levels in the process, like you say, and again, I don't want to harp on this, but the desire has to be there.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting there and you're looking at the EEG and you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, that's where either the self-learning or the continuing education makes a difference.
Yeah.
You know, I remember the first time I saw a patient with Lennox-Gastaut and how just weird for another, I mean, just on a technical term there, how weird that EEG looked for me,
Yeah.
you know, and then you start seeing some of those things. And so as you gain that knowledge, then there is a big rush or a spark when you make that first, as you say, contribution. You know, it goes past, and I think this conference is one of those things where we push the idea that it's more than just sticking electrodes on.
Yeah. Way more.
There's so much more to it than that. That's just entry level ABCs, you know, or 1020s, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You know, you just, so it goes from there. And so you would hope that you just continue to build on the knowledge.
Yeah. And that's great advice and great insight. And staying on course with the leadership theme of this conversation, and when I say leadership, it doesn't necessarily mean someone with your title where you're a manager. There are leaders who are, you know, they're right there with you, and you can be a leader to your coworker. And then
Absolutely.
there's a Tech 3, there's a neuroanalyst, there's a CLTM. Where are these, or what do you think, how are these titles actually evolving, and what do they really mean to that tech whenever they have EEG3 or a CLTM registry?
Well, again, you know, it's what can you do? What would you like to do? How does that help you? You know, so let's talk like a supervisor, the supervisor title. You know, a lot of times that position just kind of came out of, we need somebody to kind of oversee and set schedules. Well, now with the way computers are, a supervisor needs to be a troubleshooting specialist.
Yeah.
They probably need to know about networks. They probably need to have, you know, some IS insight. You know, maybe some IT, maybe have a little understanding of actually how to fix something. And I've heard of those situations where a supervisor is the liaison to the IT department or the IS department, where they're involved with the IS department and sitting there troubleshooting a computer, and they have a good insight on how to sit down and troubleshoot. Or you know, you have like a Tech 3. You could have a Tech 3 now in the epilepsy monitoring unit who specializes in stereo EEG.
Yeah.
Or their grids. You know, they're the ones in the OR. They're, you know, you can if that's what your desire is, and you start studying and you start stepping up. There were cases where I was like, hey, I want to go to the OR.
Yeah.
I want to be involved in this. I want to see this. This is, and I love the OR environment.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I liked it. You know, there's something about being in the OR, and some people, again,
they don't like it.
They don't want to touch it with the 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
They start gagging at the very sight of blood.
Sure.
And I'm just like, oh, that's cool.
Which is okay. Which is okay.
You know, you can have a Tech 3 that could be your EEG specialist. In these, like the neuroanalyst, I really see that role involving, and tell me if you think I might, you know, just be off here, but, you know, and particularly at teaching hospitals, they get these fellows that come in and they go up, and then that fellow leaves, and they bring the next class in, and they go up, and that fellow leaves, and a neuroanalyst, you can train that neuroanalyst to the same level, and they stay there at your hospital, and you don't have this roller coaster brain drain.
Yeah.
If the neurologists are willing to invest in that person, you know.
Yeah.
Sure, they may not be a fellow. They may not have the same volume of general knowledge that that fellow has, but you can train them in the specialty knowledge, and they can get that NACLTM in the level plateau contribution, or even just the continual up trajectory contribution of somebody like that is just tremendous for these places if they're willing to invest. So it's the person investing in themselves, and then yet also it's the institution investing in the technologist as well.
And I totally agree. I 100% think that there's a huge future for the neuroanalyst that I don't think we've even come close to tapping into.
We've just scratched the surface, in my opinion.
Yeah, I see an NA becoming even as important and instrumental as a PA or as an NP, as a physician assistant.
I definitely could see them becoming like an APP.
Yeah, I see them having more freedom to write reports, a neurologist. And of course, they're going to have to have a little bit more thorough education. So
sure,
maybe it might be a little bit harder to get an NACLTM, but with that, you can get the salary of a PA because the neurologist really can rely on you to read these EEGs. And with, I'm not afraid of the AI, where we can partner up with AI and we can read a whole bunch of routine EEGs, make a report, and then give it to the neurologist. Then the neurologist is able to come up with a plan of care for the patient instead of sitting down reading an EEG all day. I would love to see that.
In that aspect, sleep technologists have been doing similar for years. Most of the sleep technologists score a record, and a lot of them are doing it on the fly at night now.
Yeah.
And they do their technical analysis in the morning that are generally pretty detailed. They have a template, they fill out that template similar to a physician, and it's their technical interpretation.
Yeah.
And in that regard, a lot of times they're a little further ahead than the EEG field has been, because for so much it's just been thrown back towards the neurologist. But the CLTM, let's set the standards. Let's set the qualifications, so that the standards and the expectations of what that role is.
Yeah.
But it has so much room to grow.
So much.
And it's so needed at this time.
Yeah.
Just the amount of time and effort that is being placed on the physicians as the length and the volume of EEGs is increasing. I mean, because they just seem to be coming from everywhere nowadays.
Yeah.
That role has a lot of room to really grow. And I'd really like to see technologists grow with it. I would really like to see, in the future, that pathway continue to be accelerated, trajectory to
I see people like you, I see people like Jay Jones, I see standout people in this industry who truly I would completely trust them with their initial interpretation of the EEG on my family. And I would love to see that pathway open up for people like you, for people like Jay, for other techs who are interested. Really say, okay, you know what? Now that I'm in the medical field, I should have gone to medical school. I hear a lot of that because the passion is there, but it's so hard to do that. But if we could take our experience and our knowledge, which is vast and deep, and had a trajectory to where we could be as essential as a PA, I think that's the future of it.
That would be a true assistant.
Yeah.
So a physician's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those PAs can't assist when it comes to the EEG.
Yeah.
But NACLTM would be a true assistant in the fact that they can understand and add, as you were saying, add depth and volume and significance to that, and actually assist those neurologists.
Yeah. Offloading the EEG work.
That would be, yeah.
Well, Michael,
absolutely.
This has been a fantastic conversation. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I have one more question for you. what would you say to a tech who might feel stuck in their career path? They might feel like, I don't know where to go from here. I hear that on the Facebook group all the time, is like, I feel stagnant. In the terms of leadership, what would you say to that tech?
Well, I say this all the time, don't get stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
To me, a rut is just a coffin with the ends kicked out of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to harp on it again. You have to decide what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes when you're in some of those positions, maybe particularly it's maybe a smaller hospital, or you don't see as much room for growth.
Yeah.
But you have to decide that you want the change more than you fear the change. There was an excellent talk yesterday about being change agents, and they were talking about people can be in a miserable place, but it's familiar and they know the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're willing to stay in that uncomfortable place because it's familiar. And it's almost like there's a limbic response that kicks in when it comes to thinking about change.
Yeah.
And I understand there are some situations, maybe somebody can't move, or maybe they're stuck somewhere tending for elderly parents, and so they're kind of tied to that. But if you have the ability to move and you want it, you will.
Mm-hmm.
So again, back to you'll do the education and the work. You'll stick to it. There's an excellent talk. Angela Lee Duckworth, I believe it's a TED talk,
Mm-hmm.
and she's talking about grit.
Yeah.
That perseverance and just sticking to, sticking to what you want to do and going forward. So you come up with a plan. Start looking at, how can I educate myself into a different opportunity? How can I position myself? What other opportunities out there? Hit Indeed. I mean, I've sat with positions open 6-8 months at a time.
Mm-hmm.
The number of you'll get over 1,000 responses for EEG.
Yeah.
There's travel, opportunities out there. You want to grow? Hey, go travel for a year or two.
Well, that'll teach you a lot.
Visit different hospitals. See how they do it. See what their processes are. See what else you can do.
Yeah.
Or, like me, I saw an opportunity to move to the neuro ICU as that was opening up. So I started preparing a year in advance by working towards the CLTM. I'm back in sleep right now, and so I'm working for the CCSH, which is a clinical, certified clinical sleep health role. It's another little credential that helps there, that opens up opportunities. One of the things that surprised me when I got my CLTM is just how many LinkedIn hits I get on the backside. Nobody sees those PMs of people just saying, hey, come up to Pennsylvania. We have a role up here that we feel like you would be.
Oh, headhunted with credentials is great. Yeah.
And
that's
so
awesome.
People may not realize that at the moment when they're trying to take that next step. But when you're sitting on this side and you see that just taking that next step and investing in yourself,
yes,
you'll be surprised at the payoff. And I'm not trying to throw off on anybody, but there was a tech sitting right next to me in the EMU every weekend, not registered, had been there a while, had went through the in-house program. And I would tell him, hey, go get your registry. I'm making $5,000 a year more than you. Go get your registry. Because at this hospital, when you got your registry, they automatically gave you a $3 an hour pay raise.
Yeah.
Well, I worked with him 6 years. That's $30,000 he left on the table.
Yeah.
Just from simple like that.
Yep. And great advice. And Michael, you're just a wealth of knowledge. How can people find you on your social media?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I have a Facebook just under my name.
And how do you spell your last name for those who don't know?
It's Lingerfelt.
Okay.
T as in tango, not D, T.
All right. Well, I definitely love, you put out every once in a while, you'll put out video, educational video, and we just need more of that. And man, I just want to say thank you again for sitting down and talking with
thank you
us.
so much for having me in. This has been very good.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.